When it comes to revising for tests or exams, what I've seen with the vast majority of the students I've taught over the past 20 years is they go straight to past papers without having learned any of the content, and then attempt to do those papers straight off the top of their head in hopes of achieving a top grade. Well, if you think about it, how are you supposed to do a past paper really well, as in get a grade A or say 90% and above, or even pass it to a reasonable standard if you don't know the content? It's going to be really difficult and just doesn't work unless you've got a photographic memory and you remember it the very first time you learned it in class, or have read it once in a textbook or from your notes and then it's just in your head, and you have that type of brain. And by the way, I'm not like that. You're going to struggle. You need to find a method to learn the content effectively. So what I'm going to run through today is an effective revision strategy that you can use at any point of your academic journey, whether you're still at school, whether you're at college/university. It just works for everything. The method is actually pretty simple. You take the syllabus or outline for that particular subject, and then you divide it into parts. And then what you want to do is you want to just revise those parts individually so that you concentrate your effort on one particular topic. So maybe in biology, it might be studying photosynthesis. And then once you've studied photosynthesis, you go on to the next topic, which might be digestion. Or maybe you're in chemistry and you're studying moles and calculations, and then you finish that topic and then you go on to, say, structure and bonding. But it's not enough just to revise the content and then move on to the next topic, because you need to practice that knowledge then with exam questions to see if you've understood it. So this is what I did. So say, for example, let's just take chemistry, right? But this would apply to any school subject. This will work. So I would get the syllabus for chemistry. I would see the total number of topics in that syllabus, which usually for high school level, any of the sciences, maths, the humanities subjects, there's about 12 to 16 different topics. And then what I would do is I would pick a topic to start with, and then I would revise that topic by taking notes from the textbook, notes I'd made in school, any handouts I'd been given. Now, in the case of the internet, I would look online, look at some YouTube videos, articles, whatever I could find. And then I would get a stack of past papers that I'd printed out or had to hand. Let's just say, for example, I had 10, and I would take 5 of those past papers and I would look for questions just on that topic revised. So let's go with the biology example. I've revised photosynthesis. I've got my 10 past papers of biology stacked, and then I take 5 and then I look through those papers and I just find the questions on photosynthesis and do them, which means the rest of the past paper was blank, and that was deliberate. Then I would rinse and repeat then with other topics in the syllabus. Again, going back to those past papers, finding the questions on those topics I'd revised. So then gradually over time, especially if you're preparing for a major exam, so like 2 or 3 weeks out from a big exam, those papers would gradually fill up. So I'd end up with, coming towards the end of the revision process, 5 or 6 papers that were almost completely full, done at separate points based on what topic I'd been revising that day or that week. Then finally, right at the end, as in 3 or 4 days out before the exam, so by that point your revision should be pretty much 95% complete, which means you were then and only then in a position to attempt a full past paper under time conditions to see if your revision has been effective. Remember, I said I'd taken like 10 past papers. I'd have maybe 5 or maybe 4 left over. I would use those past papers then 3 or 4 days out to practice my time management skills. But by that point, because you've done so many questions individually in each topic, you will find your knowledge will be very, very good. And then the purpose then of those 4 or 5 papers you've kept back is not to sort of test your knowledge on each individual topic, because you've already done that. The idea is to develop your exam technique so that you can finish those questions within the allotted time. And then if any questions didn't go so well in the past papers, you can look over those topics again, re-revise them, and then attempt some newer past papers to see if your knowledge has improved in those weaker areas. I have written a detailed blog article on this exact revision process. The link is in the description below, and that contains a little bit more detail along with like a step-by-step approach that you can follow. And what I would recommend is printing it out and having it to hand, so that when you're revising for whatever test or exam you have, you can just follow the steps to help remind you the most effective way to revise. That's it for today. I hope this information has been helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.